That's their right. Excuse me. But the American people, Mr. President, have a long, long memory. To vote against something that 90% of the American people want, American people aren't going to forget about that. The opponents of the will of the American people should not spread misinformation or sow seeds of fear about this critical anti-violence legislation. But that's what they're doing. That's what they've done. And it's absolutely false and misleading. Assault weapons, Mr. President. We're going to vote on Senator Feinstein's proposal to ban assault weapons. She's been stalwart in her advocacy for this legislation. Mr. President, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, Americans' right to keep and bear arms. That's how I earned a B grade with the National Rifle Association. Mr. President, when I was a 12-year-old little boy, Searchlight, Nevada, my parents sent away for Sears in a Sears catalog and bought me a 12-gauge shotgun. Great big gun. That gun held 5 in the tube and put 1 in the chamber. 6 12-gauge shotgun shells. I carried a handgun when I was a police officer, and frankly on other occasions. From where I come, people own guns as a matter of course, for self-defense and for hunting and for sportsman activities, target shooting. I still go target shooting basically out in my backyard and Searchlight with my grandchildren. But I've always had trouble understanding why people need assault weapons to hunt or protect their homes or to target shoot. When the assault weapons ban came before the Senate for a vote 10 years ago, I called my friends, one in particular, who was a real advocate with on guns. And he said to me, you can't define an assault weapon. Why are you doing this? You can't define an assault weapon. He convinced me he was right. So I voted against that. That seemed reasonable to me. I voted against the ban. Just about a month ago, I called this same friend. I asked if his opinion had changed. Generally, no, but specifically, yes, it had changed. He still opposes a ban on assault weapons. I said, tell me why. I found his new reasoning absurd. And even though I care a great deal about my friend, he's headed in the wrong direction. So it caused me to reassess my position. He said, do police have assault weapons? I said, yes, some of them. He said, if they have them, I want them. And then he said, does the military have assault weapons? I said, yes. He said, if they have them, I want them. Mr. President, I thought about what the statement means for some time. It wasn't a rash decision that I made. But what it means is that there should be no limits to the kinds of weapons private citizens are allowed to own. I ask myself whether I believe that to be true. The police have riot gear and tear gas, battering rams, and other things. Should civilians have tear gas and assault weapons? Should civilians have them? Obviously, no. The military has rocket-propelled grenades, other kinds of rockets, machine guns, tanks, fighter jets. Should civilians have those also? Please, Doesn't make sense. So I decided the answer is no. In a civil society where we have to balance individual rights with public safety, there should be no limits to the kind of destructive weapons people are allowed to own. There should be limits, significant limits on what they are allowed to own. I believe, I repeat for the second time here today, the right to own a gun, to protect your home and your family, to hunt, to go target practicing. I'll continue to defend that right as long as I'm serving the people of Nevada. But, Mr. President, you do not need an assault weapon to defend yourself or your property. Assault weapons have one purpose, and one purpose only: to kill a large number of people really quick. This goes well beyond the purpose of self-defense. The desire to arm ourselves against the young men and women who willingly risk their lives to defend our freedoms, soldiers, sailors, Marines, Navy, Air Force, is not a reason to oppose an assault weapons ban. The wish to arm ourselves against the police who keep our streets safe is not a reason to oppose an assault weapons ban. I believe that as Americans, we have a right to arm ourselves against criminals, but we don't need the ability to arm ourselves against the Army or the police. The United States military is not out to get us. Federal law enforcement, local police departments are not out to get us. These conspiracy theories are dangerous, and they should be put to rest. In the real world, not this conspiratorial world that some live in the real world, in addition to mowing down first graders, assault weapons are used to shoot down the very people who are sworn to protect us. Here's one real-world example in Nevada. After serving 9 months in Afghanistan with his National Guard unit, Staff Sergeant Ian Michael Deutsch was eager to return to his day job as a police officer in Nye County, Nevada. He couldn't wait to get back to work. He survived Afghanistan, bombs and bullets, acts of terrorism. He survived. The second day back on the job, he was shot and killed by a man with an assault weapon with a 30-round clip. Sergeant Deutsch was responding to a domestic dispute in Pahrump, Nevada, when he was shot 3 times in the chest. One of the bullets even pierced his body armor. Assault weapon pierced the body armor that the police officer was wearing. He was airlifted to Las Vegas, rushed into emergency surgery, and he died within a few hours. He was 27 years old, had survived Afghanistan, but not America. All 730 soldiers in Michael's squadron returned alive from their tour of duty in Afghanistan, and they were so thankful and proud. It was a criminal on the street of the United States of America, our country, armed with a weapon designed to kill, who took Michael's life, his young life. Here's what his mom said, and I quote, "He was finally safe in our country, and somebody here kills him." That's what she said. That's tragedy. And it's one we could have prevented by keeping weapons of war off the streets. We can keep them off the streets. We should keep them off the streets. In the 1920s, organized crime was committing murders with machine guns. We've seen them in the movies. Valentine's Day Massacre. So Congress dramatically limited the sale and transfer of machine guns a long time ago. As a result, machine guns basically disappeared from the streets. They're in movies, but not private citizens had them. We can and should make the same common sense approach to safeguard Americans from modern weapons of war. assault weapons. That's why I will vote for Dianne Feinstein's assault weapons ban. Because we must strike a better balance between the right to defend ourselves and the right of every child in America to grow up safe from gun violence. I'll vote for the ban because maintaining a law and order is more important than satisfying conspiracy theories who believe in black helicopters and false flags. And I'll vote for the ban because saving the lives of police officers, young and old, and innocent civilians, young and old, is more important than preventing imagined tyranny. So high-capacity magazines, clips, that's what I call them. My reason for supporting a ban on large ammunition magazines is similar. These large clips are designed to kill. Not to kill a deer or a duck or any other game, large or small. They're designed to kill humans. Living, breathing human beings. People from Hawaii, people from Kentucky, people from Nevada, our citizens. They're designed to kill. In fact, it's not even legal to load more than 3 shotgun shells, let alone 30 to hunt birds. Mr. President, I talked to you earlier about my shotgun. I told you it could hold 6 shells. But we had to plug that gun because that was the law. By law, we had to limit the amount of ammo on that shotgun. So we had to plug it so it could only shoot 3. 2 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber. So that way, when you went bird hunting, you gave birds a sporting chance. You only fire 3 times. As Senator Joe Manchin from West Virginia, the courageous senator from West Virginia said, and I quote, I don't know anybody that need 30 rounds in a weapon to go hunting. Take 30 and reload. So why shouldn't we limit the number of bullets in a clip? Don't people deserve as much protection as birds? Limiting magazine size will force shooters bent on taking human life to reload more often. When this madman with the strange colored hair walked into this Aurora, Colorado movie theater with a semi-automatic weapon and a 100-round drum magazine, the only thing that spared many survivors was the fact that the shooter's gun jammed. Think of the carnage, in addition to what already was so bad, would have taken place. In Tucson, Arizona, we met here in Washington yesterday with Gabby Giffords. A woman who was shot right in the head by a man who shouldn't have had a gun. But he emptied a 33-round clip in less than 30 seconds, killing 6, injuring many more, including Gabby Giffords. In Carson City, Nevada, a mentally ill man went to an IHOP during the breakfast time and killed 4 people. 3 of them were National Guard personnel going to work. He shot 80 rounds in 80 seconds using 3 30-round clips. Limiting the size of clips won't hurt hunters and sportsmen, but it will save lives. So I'm going to vote in support of the Blumenthal-Lautenberg Amendment. In the case of Carson City, example I just gave, let's talk a little bit about mental health. That incident at that IHOP restaurant, it reveals a tragedy, of course, but also the deficiencies in this nation's mental health treatment system. That's another important part of our discussion about how to prevent gun violence. We've simply not done a good job of providing funding for and access to mental health services. This should be a bipartisan issue. Going back many years, it was bipartisan, Wellstone, Domenici. Well, we've done a better job of doing certain things in mental health, but we've done a poor job of removing the stigma that keeps Americans from seeking the treatment they need. We must do better. A bill report out of the Help Committee, led by Chairman Harkin, begins the work of improving access to critical services. I hope to be able to have, shortly after we finish this list of amendments, the ability to move to Senator Stabenow, and she's worked with others, another bipartisan piece of legislation to even go further in doing something about the mental health problems that we can alleviate that leads on occasion to these terrible, terrible tragedies. As I've said many times, Mr. President, the efforts won't stop every criminal bent on violence. But last year's terrible tragedy in Newtown was a wake-up call that we're not doing enough to keep our citizens safe. It's hard to even comprehend the scope of the tragedy, let alone recover from it. But part of the healing process is this remarkable conversation about how to prevent violence in America. And that conversation is taking place in America today because of Boston and because of the thousands of people killed with guns every year. Part of the healing process is examining what can be done to prevent more tragedies like the ones in Newtown, Connecticut, Aurora, Colorado, Oak Creek, Wisconsin, Carson City, Nevada, and multiple other places. I believe that if we can save the life of a single American, we owe it to ourselves to try. That's going to take courage of some people, Mr. President. President Monson, president of Mormon Church, said this about courage, and I quote, "Life's journey is not traveled on a freeway devoid of obstacles, pitfalls, and snares. Rather, it is a pathway marked by forks and turnings. Decisions are constantly before us. To make them wisely, courage is needed. The courage to say no. The courage today, Mr. President, to say yes. I repeat, life's journey is not traveled on a freeway devoid of obstacles, pitfalls, and snares. Rather, it is a pathway marked by forks and turnings. Decisions are constantly before us. To make them wisely, courage is needed. Courage to say no." Mr. President, today the courage to say yes. Decisions do determine destiny. Today our decisions will determine the destiny of our country. Today I choose to vote my conscience, not only as Harry Reid, a United States Senator, but also as a husband, a father, a grandfather, and I hope friends to lots and lots of people. I choose to vote my conscience because if tragedy strikes again, I'm sorry to say, Mr. President, it will. If innocents are gunned down in a classroom or a theater or a restaurant, I would have trouble living with myself as a senator, as a husband, a father, a grandfather, and a friend, knowing that I didn't do everything in my power to prevent that incident.